Don't say yes to everything. That is an absurd concept. Like, just don't violate your own boundaries for other people. Don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Don't just say yes for the sake of saying yes if you desperately don't want to do something. It is okay to have preferences. It is okay to have boundaries. It is okay to affirm and keep those boundaries. Hi, I'm Kate, and welcome to Always Tuck and Roll. We discuss life, the universe, autism, and whatever else comes out of my head, because you should lean into inspiration when it manifests, I guess. So let's go with that. Today, I want to talk about the word should. Now, on its face, it's a fairly innocuous word. And for a baseline, let's look at dictionary.com. And verb, used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness, typically when criticizing someone's actions. Or used to indicate what is probable. Now, I was thinking about this last week when I was editing my last video. And should is such a damaging word because it's like normal. What does that even mean? I mean, yeah, we literally just did the definition of should, but used to indicate obligation, duty, or correctness, typically when criticizing someone's actions, like, you should have done that. And obviously, there's a time and a place. There's a time and a place for just about anything but this is different. Where I'm coming from with this is we need to look at how often we're using should and what should actually mean in all scenarios, because, like, you should eat a healthy meal. You should take care of yourself. You should brush your teeth. You should brush your hair. I promise you I just did, even if it definitely still doesn't look like it. But we also just, like, well, you should have done that whenever something goes wrong. And yeah, hindsight's 20/20, obviously. But also, I think we all need to start actually looking at what it is that, like, should be happening. Because, I mean, I'm a very introspective person. I'm constantly always... I also have an anxiety disorder, so I am constantly harping on everything I've ever done and how I could have done it better, how I should have done it better. Should. But, like, I'm fumbling through life. As long as I hit the major points that keep me legally and mentally above board, like, what does should even matter? Different strokes for different folks. I think that should is often used in the same way we use tradition. And a lot of traditions are just letting ourselves be bullied by our ancestors. And not everything needs to perpetuate. Not everything. Some things can die. And I'd like to stop having should be so forefront in my vocabulary, because I do think it's damaging. So whenever I have one of these, like, ideas or things percolating in my brains, I do ask the internet. I am a child of the internet, realistically. And luckily, the search engine gods have not forsaken me and tossed me some great articles. One in particular comes to us from the Harvard Business Review, entitled "Why Should is Not Good for You." It's by Amanda Rayl and was published March 24th, 2023, so just over 2 years ago. How many times a day do you think or say the words, "I should"? How often do those words result in your taking immediate action? My guess is that the odds are 50-50. Every once in a while, you might clean out your email inbox or finish your presentation by Friday at 5 p.m., Other times, you probably sigh and feel a vague sense of mourning for all things that you're not actually going to get done. Worse is when your brain cascades into a series of I shoulds, leaving you too overwhelmed to initiate any items on your to-do list. And I think that right there is really, worse is when your brain cascades into a series of I shoulds, leaving you too overwhelmed to initiate any items on your to-do list. Should can cause that mental quicksand. Like, you have all of these things you should be doing. Nothing is going to happen because you're wallowing in the despair of all the stuff you can't get done. And that's very defeating. It is very hard to function. When your brain uses the word should, a word used that signals obligation, duty, or correctness, particularly when criticizing an action, they use the dictionary too. It's taking an information from what it believes to be an authoritative source and telling you how you can be better. The problem is, should is a terrible authority figure. Heck yes it is, especially when it's driven by your own neurotic, chaotic brain. Like depression and anxiety disorders, autism, ADHD, there's so much happening, and I will make up the most insane consequences for like the smallest of things. And I used to do that for work stuff and home stuff. So like nothing could get done, but all of these consequences. And like the work stuff did get done because there are consequences, big consequences, like not having a job or people not getting paid or all of that other stuff that I don't want to crawl. That rabbit hole is sealed up for the day. Not climbing in that right now. Of all the stuff I used to do. But I know that the stuff around my apartment did not get done either because it would just mentally pile up on me. And the voices in my head are not good authority figures. Is what, and luckily I know that like that is a ridiculous like thing that's not gonna happen, and also you're an adult, people aren't just gonna yell at you like you're a child all the time, which it's actually false because 4'11" female with autism, I get yelled at for stuff. I get scolded by grown adults all the time for stuff that they think I should know better, but like you're talking esoteric concepts, and again, I don't know, and there's a reason I'm not out in the world a lot these days. Let's jump back into the article before I fall down a rabbit hole that I don't feel like getting into today. There we are. The word should, by definition, implies that you have an obligation to complete an action. It also implies that there will be consequence if you fail to do so. Sometimes this may be true, but ultimately it's demotivating. Research shows that we're more likely to be productive when we find work meaningful, not when we're driven by a fear of punishment. What's more, we don't often question the driver behind the should, which could come from many different places. It could be a literal authority figure like your boss. It could also be a social norm or an age-old idea such as say yes to everything. Time out there, actually. Don't say yes to everything. That is an absurd concept. Like, just don't violate your own boundaries for other people. Don't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Don't just say yes for the sake of saying yes if you desperately don't want to do something. It is okay to have preferences. It is okay to have boundaries. It is okay to affirm and keep those boundaries. And I know that it's hard. I am crap at boundaries a lot of the time, and let's be honest, one of the reasons I don't have some of my former jobs is because I set boundaries and held boundaries and left when I was having them being, people tried to break them. It's important to have boundaries. I quit a job over an obligation that a boss had for me. She wanted me to do something I found egregiously unethical. It was a financial advisor who wanted me to contact one of her clients who had just became a pastor at her local church, and she wanted me to have this pastor host a financial advising meeting for my boss, and I refused. That was actually the straw that broke the camel's back. When I broke up with that narcissist, I quit. But she, even though she's not a boss who ever sexually harassed me, almost physically, or any of the things, she's the worst boss I've ever had. And not just because of that very unethical thing, but lots of things. But I should have called that client because that was what my boss wanted to do. That was a high priority obligation for my boss. But you know what? Never happened? That. Because I spent 20 minutes calling her out on ethics. And I took her lunch order and quit. Because why not? Do all of the things. I still had obligations to meet. I still had to take her lunch order, and then I needed to give her my resignation. That's not what this is about, though. While should statements are not bad by nature, most of them fail to inspire us and result in negative emotions. When we fail to enact them, we feel guilty or resentful towards the person or idea pressuring us. That can lead to increased stress, tense relationships, and decreased productivity, especially for people who are newly navigating the workforce. When I start a new job, I throw myself in so hard. I burn the candle at both ends, and then, it's no wonder I have a 3 to 5 year burnout cycle. I was hoping I could get past that with therapy, but so far no dice. But also I need to work in environments that are actually healthy for me to be in, not just things that I'm good at. And boy, isn't that a complicated concept. Not actually. The things I'm good at are not healthy for me to do. Who knew? Oh, autism. When you're the new person on the team, it's very easy to get caught in the negative thought patterns should statements initiate. Like, I should say yes to every task my boss gives me. No, you shouldn't. If it's not ethical, if it's illegal, if it makes you uncomfortable, no, you shouldn't. I should speak up more in meetings. It's so hard to speak up in meetings. The only time I can do it is when I know that the answer is something that I have. I should network with as many people as possible. Yeah, I don't network well, I'll be perfectly honest. Obviously. Sometimes these statements may even contradict each other. Ain't that the truth? Should usually does contradict itself, let's be honest here. I should avoid burnout. I should work extra hours to prove my loyalty to the team. No, you should not work extra hours. There is no payoff for working more. I have never worked a job where you got anything other than verbal attaboys and absolutely no credit other than like, hey, they were really helpful that time. The second you stop doing anything extra, working off the clock, is when they start coming after you for made up slights and stuff. It's when you stop, anytime I have started to protect myself because I feel like my boundaries are being pushed in a work thing, the pushback I get is so much stronger than even the pushback I was even administering. It's really frustrating. And I frequently want to go like, what do you people want from me? And it's like, well, you should be doing this. Like, that's not what you said. And also, no, I'm not doing that because it doesn't work. And we're just going to keep going with this article before I get a little feisty about people and stuff I don't want to give space in my brain to today, which is obviously not working, so we're just going to keep going. So, we get to the helpful part of the article. Shifting the should mindset. We know that should triggers a sense of obligation in our brains. To shift our mindsets, we need to rewire that trigger from one of obligation to one of consideration. When the words I should pop into your mind, practice immediately asking yourself the following sequence of questions. So number 1, where did I get the idea that I should do this? Number 2, do I want that source to be authoritative at work or in my life? Number 3, does it match up with my values and priorities at work or in my life? 4, does it make sense in this season of my career to focus on this particular obligation? Or does it fit into your personal life? Is another good question. And number 5, is adding this to my day or year reasonable considering how much I have on my plate? I would say 4 and 5 are actually sides of the same coin, personally, because it sounds like, do you have time in your career to do this? Do you have time in your personal life to do this? Because we all like to think we're a lot more capable of spreading ourselves, but realistically, we're all spreading ourselves very thin. Gotta wear a lot of hats just to be a person these days, and there's only so much of you to go around. I forget that a lot, and I am a very small person, so really there's not much of me to go around at all. Let's say we're subjecting the statement, I should be getting more done at work, to the above sequence. There are many potential answers to question number 1 above that could impact the end result. For instance, is your boss asking you to put in more effort, or is this should driven by watching a colleague shoot out several emails over the weekend? Once you ask question number 2, you may recognize that your colleague's actions don't need to impact your own work-life balance. But if you're consistently missing deadlines, or if the driver is feedback from your manager, there may be good reason to follow through with this statement. If your manager's being a dick, you might just need to quit. Just saying. Don't ever please do not ever push aside your own morals and ethics for the sake of keeping a job. The way you'll feel inside is so empty and gutted, and it compounds and piles up and will explode on you. For the obligations you choose to keep, consider actively relabeling them in your mind as I will, and create a feasible plan to execute each action. Now, the soundtrack running in your brain is no longer one of self-defeating accusation, I should, but one that represents your sense of agency. Not only do you have the power to do something about it, but you're also going to, and that's likely to make you feel good. I'm going to jump into this and not even talk about the workplace. I'm going to talk about cleaning. So, obviously, everyone's got to clean. There's all kinds of stuff. You got to vacuum, you got to do the dishes, you got to laundry, if you had a lawn, mowing it, all that jazz. So, 20 years ago, I will be perfectly honest, I was not prompt in changing my sheets or vacuuming or cleaning the bathroom or laundry. I wasn't dirty, but I was also it wasn't as fresh as now. Right now I'm doing the laundry, clothing once a week, towels once a week, sheets once a week. And you know what? I feel better mentally because of that. I don't let the dishes pile up. When I was in my early 20s, I honestly could let my dishes pile up in my sink, grow mold, until I would feel horrendous about myself. I need to deal with this. I should be dealing with this. And then I would probably just order takeout so that I didn't have to deal with the pile in my sink. And that's not healthy. Or if I don't stay on top of laundry, then clothing just piles up on the floor and you end up with more than just the 3 piles of definitely clean, mostly clean, and definitely dirty. Sometimes your whole floor turns into those 3 piles. And entropy is so unhealthy. At least, for me, definitely, I'm sure for you too. But in the last year, where I have been just taking care of myself and my partner, but primarily taking care of myself, which also includes taking care of my space, because that's something we forget. It's not just about, you gotta brush your teeth, you gotta brush your hair, you gotta do your freaking laundry. It's important. Like, I am a happier, cleaner, calmer person when I'm in a clean environment. So if I just do the things to maintain that, like, do I want to do them? Not really. I hate vacuuming. But you know what? I vacuumed and then I did yoga on my floor and was like, oh, my floor is not this horrifying cesspool. This is just a carpet. I mean, I'd love to not have carpets, but you know, in this apartment building, I wish the carpets were thicker so I didn't hear every step they take all the time. And the zoomies, oh, I don't even know how big the dog is, but it's so loud. That's not either here nor there. And the zoomies are the least annoying thing that people upstairs do. So, before I get too off, I just thought, you know, things like cleaning. I've reframed how I think about cleaning and apartment maintenance, home maintenance. And it's easier to do them because it's not like, I should do that, and then I just like lie on the couch and don't because it just piles up around me. It's like, oh no, I'm gonna do this because A, it won't take me that long, and then I can also do this, and when I'm done, I'll be in a clean environment I can function in. So that's how I like to reframe like those tasks, but right now I'm not. I don't have a lot of work pressure piled up upon me, so I have I now have the brain power to think about these things, which is nice. For the obligations you choose to release, it's important to relabel those as well. Usher them into a new category that better serves you, like a no statement, writing down or speaking your no statement. So like, when you're overwhelmed by all these obligations, write them down. And then figure out, is this something that you need to do, or is it something that someone else wants you to do? Where is that authority figure? Who is deciding that you should be doing this? How important is it? What are the consequences if it doesn't get done? But don't get lost in the consequences. Don't get lost in the could. Could is another dangerous quagmire to fall into, but should is actively damaging. Yet writing down or speaking your no statement aloud will solidify your reasoning in your brain and slow down your racing thoughts. For instance, if the obligation violates your values in some way, such as doing something just to please another person or as a result of peer pressure, write down the action and why you aren't doing it. No, I'm not going to go grab drinks with those colleagues after work because it drains me and there are other ways for me to make meaningful connections. This new statement will capture your intention in a clear way to make you less likely to relapse back into the should later. You're no longer uncertain. You've made a decision about the topic. I actually don't generally go out for drinks, or the last place I worked with, I didn't go out for drinks with colleagues because they were going to a place that was unsafe for me to be in as someone who is very, very allergic to cumin. Because they would always go to the Swan Mexican restaurant because it had a great happy hour menu. And I did not fight them on that, even though I was like, you should come. Like, yeah, I like to not have allergic reactions, and you already brought tacos into my office and gave me one, so I'm not going to go out and invite more into my life, okay? Plus, getting overly comfortable with certain colleagues is never a good idea. At least I've noticed that over the years. Though I have worked in other places where, like, oh yeah, we all piled into the bar at the end of the day because working outside in the hot sun, keeping people alive is exhausting. And you need a beer after that. Can still walk into that old bar and just get handed a switchback. So good. So good. Your deepest held values and priorities can be authority figures in your life. You can let should statements go, and in the end, they're poor motivators based on shoddy logic, and more likely to cause you unfounded guilt than result in meaningful action. Next time you think should, tell that should what you will and will not do and why. And I think that is a great policy to have. Don't let should boss you around. It's like tradition. Tradition is just being bullied by your ancestors. You have personal agency. You can make your own decisions. If there are not life-ending consequences whether or not you do something, then choose whether or not you're gonna do it. Just because you feel like you should does not mean you actually should. Some of those things we should do are actively damaging to us. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Try to take some time to evaluate your shoulds. Don't get stuck in the quagmire of all of your perceived obligations. What actually has to happen? What do you feel comfortable doing? And what are you capable of doing? Remember, should is detrimental. I will be trying to remove the word should from my vocabulary. I hope you also try to eliminate it because I think we can do better. We can definitely do better for ourselves. And when all else fails, don't forget to tuck and roll. Softens the blow, and who doesn't like to just roll around a little?